Welcome everyone to this 9 Principles of Spiritual Recovery video. This is for the principle of reauthorization, and in particular about reauthorization as a spiritual practice in substance abuse recovery. In this video, we'll discuss the recognizing the need for change and growth. Some of the videos that we've published already that might help you with this include Substance Abuse Recovery 101, the Reauthorization series, and also Reauthorization in Substance Abuse Recovery, the basics. That might be a good one to start with. So when it comes to substance abuse and addiction, drug addiction recovery, why should anyone bother? What's going to help them recognize the need to change? Well, simple truth is drug use kills people, and lots of them. In the U.S., 2021, we had basically about 107,000 drug-involved overdose deaths. And if we look at those in terms of synthetic opioids, we were up 13,000 year to year, 8,000 for psychostimulants like methamphetamine, 4,600 plus for cocaine overdoses. I didn't even know people still did cocaine, for God's sake. And let's see, we actually have good news on the natural or semi-synthetic drug type, and we actually had fewer overdose-related deaths, and probably some of those numbers actually ended up in the synthetic opioids section. So as far as, the numbers, overall numbers, they went up, not down. Which is strange because U.S. overdose deaths declined in 2018, 2019. And I'm guessing COVID-19 had something to do with that. So if we take a look at this map of overdose deaths in 2021, these are the rates per 100,000 residents. And this is from drugabusestatistics.org. If you look, the Northeast has very high rates. Kind of the mid-Atlantic states and kind of the eastern portion of the Midwest and the Southeast all have relatively high rates. And then kind of the desert Southwest, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, and even Colorado and Utah seem to have higher rates. The Midwest seems to have the lower rates. So if you take a look at this happiness index from 2021, kind of compare that to the overdose death rate map, kind of interesting what happens. I actually want to take a look at this from the perspective of the unhappiness index. Now, as far as the happiest places in the United States, you look at the Midwest, Northeast, the exception of New Hampshire, I guess, Florida even, and Hawaii. What's to complain about in Hawaii, right? The unhappiest places, basically the whole East Coast, the whole eastern United States, from the Mississippi River east, California, Nevada, and Alaska. And if you were to overlay a map of the state's COVID-19 rates for the same period, it'd be a very similar looking map. The higher COVID rates would be in these red areas. Lower COVID rates would be in the yellow and green areas. So dig down in the data just a little bit, And according to the study CDC, demographics for these statistical categories could shift a little bit because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Among women, American Indian and Alaska Natives are the most likely to die from an overdose, according to the CDC. Among men, Black or African Americans are the most likely to die from an overdose. Men aged 25 to 34 years old are the most likely among all age groups to die from an overdose. And among women, overdose deaths are most common among 45 to 54-year-olds. According to the CDC, the categories of drug involvement highest for synthetic opioids, heroin, and benzodiazepines or tranquilizers. My guess is that a lot of these drug-involved overdoses were actually suicide attempts that may have turned fatal or were intentionally fatal. But if you're feeling lousy, if you feel like you're in real bad shape, you're in a crisis, call 911. So let's talk about reauthorization as a spiritual practice in substance abuse recovery. So reauthorization as a spiritual principle or spiritual recovery practice is the process of empowering oneself again and taking ownership for one's words and deeds. And it's described by this: I am responsible and accountable for my feelings, thoughts, beliefs, and actions and their effects on myself and others. So reauthorization is again giving oneself the power to originate and create, or in terms of one's own life, to author the plan for beginning to change and recreate that life. And reauthorization is related to recovery in that one regains or reclaims the power to take charge of her or his own life again. That's empowerment, to once again take ownership for one's life. And this begins with imagination, folks. We have to be able to imagine a better life. And to imagine the one that we're living now isn't the one that is our best and serves our highest needs. So it's going to seem kind of circular, but here goes. The root cause of drug addiction is stress. We have this feeling that we don't like. We feel uncomfortable, and so we take something to try to get rid of it. Stress is a stressor. Okay, a stressor is any kind of influence on our lives that produces that feeling of stress, or that reaction to some sort of a threat, pressure, demand, problem, trauma, those kinds of things. Stressors are also the main effects of drug addiction, and in turn cause the stress that people experience as a result of the addiction. So stress and stressors, they're both causes, they're both effects. It's just a big old circle. People use drugs to try to cope with the stressors or interfere in that circle, that cycle, but the drug use ends up causing more stress to try to cope with. So you never really catch up with yourself. The dog never does quite catch its tail. Albert Einstein said, in the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. So even in the midst of drug addiction, we have the opportunity to make changes in life. Well, first we have to recognize those needs for change. And then spiritual recovery is about looking inside myself and rediscovering my self-spirit, my soul, during and after experiencing a significant life challenge or crisis, and using it, that self-spirit, that soul, to help me change, grow, and improve the quality of my connections to the all of life, so I can reach my full potential and be the highest and best version of myself. Confucius said heaven's purpose is contained within our nature. And basically, I think what he meant was that what God, Spirit, the universe wants is for us all to recognize the divinity in each other and to care about each other, to love each other. Part of that has to be self-love. And another great philosopher, me, came up with this idea of the ruby rule. I heard, you've heard about the golden rule, Confucius's own silver rule. I came up with this idea, and I don't know that I've seen it anywhere, and I just call it the ruby rule. And basically it says this: treat yourself the way you want others to treat you. Make sense? We do teach other people how to treat us. So if we want to show them how to treat us, we have to be the example. We have to be the model. We have to show how it's done. So how do we love ourselves? Basically the same way we love other people. But we show ourselves respect. We're honest with ourselves. We're patient. We care about ourselves. We accept ourselves. We're tolerant of our own particular characteristics and flaws and faults, maybe. We forgive ourselves for our mistakes, and we're compassionate with ourselves, empathetic. We're grateful for ourselves. We have a little faith in ourselves, trust ourselves, and basically have self-confidence. And if we can show those kinds of things to ourselves, extend those to ourselves, other people might get the hint and do the same thing. Now, of everything that I've come across when it comes to recovery, for me, the number one protective factor in recovery is self-confidence. And self-confidence comes from a person empowering her or himself to take an honest look at her or his life and recognize any need to change or grow to cope with her or his life stressors in healthy ways. Self-confidence comes through recovery. We start to get the idea that we can take care of the small things and the big things in life, and we can cope with our stressors. And that helps us go a long way in recovery. So for reauthorization as a spiritual practice, this involves working with Spirit as co-creator to recognize the need for change and growth in our lives. Some of the questions we might want to ask ourselves in terms of this particular aspect of reauthorization as a spiritual practice: do I believe in God or Spirit to help me through the process of changing my life? Do I have hope my life can improve for the better? Do I have faith that good things are possible, even if I can't see how that can happen? So when it comes to reauthorization and spiritual practice, again, these questions kind of address the different types of learning styles that folks have, and what we used to call, when I was getting my teaching degree, our favorite question. And those all started with what, why, how, and if. So basically it goes like this: what changes do I need to make in my life related to my substance or drug use? Why should I make those changes? How do I make those changes? And if I make those changes, what can I expect? When it comes specifically to recognizing the need for change and growth, some of the things we want to ask: why should I change anything about my life? What reasons do I have for making changes in my life? What are the things making me feel stressed out? What is the most stressful thing in my life? Who are the most stressful people in my life? What led me to become addicted to drugs and or alcohol? How does my substance abuse, drug addiction impact on my health and well-being? If I can stop using drugs and or alcohol, how will my life change for the better? If I stop using, how might life change for the worse? More questions. Who is important to me? What is important to me? Who and what kinds of things do I want to bring into my life? Who and what kinds of things have I lost that I want to bring back into my life? What goals do I have? What purpose would I like my life to serve? What do I want to have for a life in a month, in a year, in 3 years, and in 5 years? We can use the 6 dimensions of wellness again to do a stressors analysis to figure out what it is that's causing us the most problems in life. We can assess and evaluate the stressors, assess levels of impact on life, give you a basic idea how those stressors impact each dimension, get a feel for how much stress you might be experiencing, help you to organize and analyze any information that you come up with, and to help you set some priorities about what to address first. To determine what resources you may not currently have that you'll need. And again, this 6 dimensions of wellness model can be helpful in developing an overall plan for change and growth in recovery from your stressors. This is a quick way to look at things. The physical aspect of the physical dimension relates to our bodies. That one's pretty obvious. Intellectual dimension relates to our thinking, those sorts of processes. The emotional aspect or dimension about our feelings. Social dimension about other people, either individually or in groups. Occupational relates to our jobs, our work, our career. Also include finances in there. And spiritual health, that dimension has to do with our connection with ourselves, with other people, other beings, the environment in general, and spirit. So an idea how this stressors analysis might look as far as your impact of my substance abuse, my drug addiction on the different aspects of my health, my wellness. Let's say under the physical health, I'm fatigued all the time. I've got withdrawal symptoms when there are no drugs available, sick to my stomach, got the shakes, no energy, digestive problems, shaking, all those kinds of things. In terms of intellectual wellness, I got a lack of focus and concentration, can't pay attention, making, quote, bad decisions. Emotionally, have mood swings, I'm angry, depressed, I'm anxious, hopeless, and helpless all at the same time, which is pretty much usually the case. Socially, don't hang out with anyone who doesn't do drugs, no contact with my old friends. Occupationally, I've got money problems, I can't keep a job. When I do have a job, I'm late for work and I miss too many days. And then spiritually, don't really believe in anything. And God doesn't care about me or my problems. So once we've done the stressors analysis, then we can start to actually look for ways to solve some of these problems. And we do that through the problem resolution process. Now, some of the benefits of putting together a plan for problem resolution. It's a strategy for getting past the indecision and procrastination. It's always part of early recovery. Folks hem and haw. I'll put it off till tomorrow. One more day of, using, and then I'll never do it again. Okay. Pretty typical. When you put together a plan, you really don't need to commit to it until you're ready and able to do so. There's nothing worse than doing all of this work and then starting in and you're not ready for it. You're not committed to it. You're not motivated to do it. So just wait until you really get to a place where you're ready to make the change. And this will go a lot easier. There's no need to put into action this plan immediately. Still time to consider any options or alternatives to deal with your situation as things change. You may have some things that have been a stressor that kind of resolve themselves. It usually doesn't happen. Sometimes it does, though. And those are things that you don't have to consider down the road. Now, all this said, if your safety is at risk, immediate action is needed. Call 911. Don't mess around. Where do we start? With the basics. What are my current problems? My stressors. Problems, pressures, demands, threats, traumas, all of those things. What is my main problem, my main stressor? What problem is causing me to feel the most stress, the most discomfort, the most distress? What is the cause of my main problem or stressor? So answer this question. Why does this situation that's causing me stress, pain, suffering, grief, sadness, despair, sorrow, worry, fear, misery, general unhappiness, why does this situation exist to begin with? What are the effects of my main problem on my wellness, the different aspects of my overall health, on how I feel physically and emotionally, on what I think about, on how I relate to other people socially, on what I choose to do for education, work, career, vocation, occupation, voluntary service, that kind of thing, on what I do for my own spiritual development, on how I make connections and retain connections, maintain connections, and what's my purpose in life. How does my main problem affect me realizing my goals in life about what my purpose might be? If I make changes to address my stress and resolve my main problem and then my other problems, how will my life improve? How will things get better? In effect, what is my motivation to change? How's my life going to get better? That's what I am using to motivate me to change. I need to see that things are going to get better before I will commit to doing this, put my energy into it, and try to make it a reality. What is my top priority for an overall change I want to see happen? What's the first thing I would like to see change? So what is my main problem-solving goal? What do I want to see done and make sure it's done and as soon as possible? To that end, what are the measurable steps that I can take to help me resolve parts of my main problem and build my self-confidence in the process of resolving that whole problem? It's what we call objectives. Things like, I will do what for or within how many, say, days, weeks, months, or how long a time period. Something you can actually measure. At the end of the time period, you look at it and go, okay, did I do this or not? If I got part of it done, why didn't I get all of it done, and what do I have left to do? An example, I will do what? Not use my drug of choice for time period 3 days. So that's an objective. We get to the end of 3 days. Did we use or did we not use? If we didn't, great. If we did, why? What caused us to? How long did it go before we actually used? Another example, I will find a drug counselor within the next week. Pretty straightforward. You can apply that to anything that you need, any kind of resource that you need, place to live, place to stay, money, any of those kinds of things. So when it comes to resources, what resources do I have that I could use to help me achieve my main problem-solving goal? And also, what other resources do I think I'll need in that process? And these could be things like money, could be transportation, could be a cell phone, could be support groups, could be a mentor, if you're doing 12-step, a sponsor, government agencies that can help out with different things, treatment options, all of those kinds of resources that we might need in recovery. How will I know I've resolved my problems? How will I know things are better? What will that look like to me? So that's basically reauthorization as a spiritual practice in substance abuse recovery. And in particular, the aspect of recognizing the need for change and growth in our lives. When we've gotten to the point where we say, this isn't working for me, things need to change, we're on our way. So if you've gotten this far, folks, congratulations, you've done really well, and we'll try to get you through the rest of it. Thank you again for watching, viewing this video. As always, the next video in the series will be on creating opportunities to succeed in life when it comes to reauthorization in substance abuse recovery. If you found anything in this video that you thought was enlightening, entertaining, instructional, inspirational, please give it a like. If you consider any of this to be valuable, you might want to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, share this video with anyone you think might get something out of it, and as always, share your comments, and we'll see y'all next time. Take care of yourselves.